So an example we're trying to explore is imagine you have $8,000. Wow, be kind of nice. And that I have the ability to invest that money. And I have two options available to me. One is I have one that's through compounded interest. I have an account that will pay me 7%, and I'm going to compound it monthly. So that means every month my accumulated value is then compounded, and the interest is earned off of that every month. Not a bad deal. Or I have another option is that I can have it compounded continuously, but my rate is a little bit lower at 6.85. So I have to understand what we're being asked. One is a compounding of 12 times a year. So this models that particular model. Continuous compounding models this one. So what do? Well, this is where you grab the black box out and you start punching in numbers. So let's calculate this one where my principal is 8,000. So I can make that my P. My rate is 7%. And I'm given my N equals 12. So I have all my variables, so it just simply means a time of plug and play. So plugging that in on that particular one, my amount, and I'm going to put a little subscript 12 on that one, is calculated out to 12,160. Compounded continuously at the other rate, punch that in, I earned 12,600 or $12,066. So it looks like the better option for me between these two accounts is to choose the one that's compounded monthly rather than the one that's compounded continuously based on those two particular rates. Now, before you check out here, here's something that's kind of interesting that you might be asking yourself. Well, how does it compare that if I compounded continuously at the same rate? So let's compare 7% compounded monthly with 7% compounded continuously. How much do you think it's going to change? Do you think it's going to be a lot more if it's compounded continuously? So let's take this value, plug it in for 7% this time, just as we're kind of curious. And I get, after 6 years, which is the model we're looking at, I get $12,928. Now, to me, that's kind of a shock. I mean, I like the fact that money was growing, but I was expecting if it was going to be compounded continuously, that it was going to be a greater number, a significant greater number than what I got compounded monthly. Because after all, this is only being compounded 12 times a year. This one's being compounded an infinite amount of times during the year, a continuous amount of time. What's odd about this, it starts to level off at a certain value. And so even though we like to have it compounded continuously, the greater the change doesn't affect a greater value in earned along those lines. And that's something that I hope we discover as you work through some examples and getting some type of an idea of why banks do compound their money continuously as opposed to compounding it once, twice a year, monthly, or whatever it might be.